exercise demonstration video for the inchworm and the inchworm push-up. I'll show you both variations in this video, and you can choose the level of difficulty that's appropriate for you. Both of these movements can start standing up or start from the plank. So if you start standing up, you'll need to put your hands down in front of your feet, noticing that I have the whole length of my foot and my entire hand flat on the floor. If you need to do a deep bend in your legs to make this happen, that's okay, as long as you try to keep that heel flat on the floor. We don't want to see a deep bend if we lose that connection. You should feel a pretty big hamstring stretch, maybe low back as well, right away when you start this movement. When you do the inchworm, it's all about taking small steps with your hands as you walk your way out to a plank position. And right about here, we should feel the glutes and the abs really engage as tightly as they can, and then stay tight for the rest of the movement. When you get out here to the plank position, the inchworm, just like its namesake, would go small movements in the toes, little steps, maybe only half the length of your foot, until you're back to that deep fold with the hamstring stretch. And then you can repeat, now moving the hands. As you're doing the inchworm, you'll feel a tendency for rotation through your trunk, and it will be up to you, using the muscles of your core, to try to counter that rotation as much as possible. When you do the inchworm, you also get a fantastic shoulder activation. So let me show you a demonstration here. Once we've established our position, when we walk our way out and we find this moment for the bracing, we want to make sure that the rest of our inchworm does not look like this. Side-to-side movement of the hips. Sometimes people do inchworms. Their inchworm looks like this, with rotation through the trunk. They kind of plod their way out. Instead, it's better for us to take those small steps to be really, really rigid. And in this moment, when we take one hand off the floor to step forward, we want to avoid twisting, turning, or shifting our weight. That's when this really becomes a stability exercise, because we'll have 2 points of contact on the ground in the lower body and 1 point with the upper body. And that's going to form sort of a lopsided triangle for us to try to brace against. Then we put the other hand a little bit forward and we shift that triangle, and now we're bracing with the same 2 points in the lower body, but a new point here in the hand. As you walk your way back in, same thing holds true. I want to keep my tension in the torso as I'm stepping the feet forward, rather than having something where the hips kind of twist side to side. Now, I know this is a lot to think about, but I want to build up your movement dexterity here, so we will add those layers of challenge. The last thing for the inchworm is regarding shoulder position. So if we take our shoulder position and we're in our partial inchworm, let's say I've walked my hands out this far. When we're in this position and we're moving on to our next, we want to make sure that we have this dexterity in the shoulder to be able to push from the ground. Most of us are pretty familiar with this. If we had our hands up and we wanted to reach even higher, that would be the activation, that upward movement of the shoulder. When we're doing the inchworm, we want to feel the muscles of the chest and shoulder moving that shoulder, getting that motion in order to power you through the movement, and having that activation that comes from moving and then relocating the shoulder. So let me give you an example here. As we're walking our way out and we're staying braced, we want to make sure that in this moment, once we've got through our inchworm, we're keeping that activation in the shoulder. As you're doing your inchworm, make sure you keep that shoulder activation. Get out here to that plank position. You better believe the abs and the glutes are real tight. And then those small steps with the feet, finding that big hamstring stretch or low back stretch. Now there is a bit of a progression here with the inchworm. You can do this moving forward, walking your hands out and then your feet, hands and then feet. Or if you're limited for space, it's okay for you to walk your hands out and then walk your hands back in again. This is how I do most of my inchworms. Hands on the floor, walking my way out, finding that braced position, squeezing the abs and glutes until we end up at the plank, and then going towards a downward dog position, pushing through the arms and shoulders to come back to right where we started from. And this is a good way for you to do your inchworms if you're short on space. The last thing for this is to add a push-up. If you're up for it, you can walk your way out, find that brace position, go through the range of motion of a push-up, and then hike your hips up and walk your way back out. Just to give you a demonstration, if you're up for this, walking your hands out, out, out. Here's our bracing, abs and glutes. We found our plank position. We're going to go through that push-up, hopefully all the way until the front of your body is flat on the ground. Push yourself up, walking your way back. Now, of course, if you need to, during your inchworms, you're always welcome to stand all the way up, get out of that inverted position, give your head a break if you feel like you're inverted for too long. All right, hope this was helpful.